Friendships after 70. Are they really necessary? Ever wondered why, as you get older, those conversations you once looked forward to now leave you feeling drained? Why some close relationships have dwindled to awkward text messages? We're told more friends equals a longer, happier life. But what if the opposite is true? In today's video, we'll bust the myths about friendships after 70, and you'll discover something that could completely change how you live the rest of your life. Hold on tight, because the best part is at the end. Reason number 1, you don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. When you're young, fitting in is everything. You strive to be accepted by society, your friends, your workplace. You build relationships just to keep up appearances, impress people, or avoid being left out. That constant feeling of being judged makes you constantly try to please others. Think about it. Attending parties you don't want to go to, enduring pointless social calls, all because you're afraid of seeming aloof or distant. But then comes a beautiful shift. As you age and weather life's storms, you start to realize something profound. Your worth isn't defined by what others think, but by who you are. You don't need invitations to feel important or to be part of a group to feel like you belong. You're done chasing validation. You know yourself. This brings a fantastic freedom. Many older folks maintain relationships out of fear of being labeled difficult or unsociable. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone pleasantries or a perfect image. It's like Harold in that video, surrounded by friends and colleagues, constantly socializing. Then retirement hits, and poof. Most of those relationships were conditional, built on convenience rather than genuine connection. The need to use friends as a reflection of your self-worth fades away. When you're young, friends act like a mirror. Am I loved? Am I good enough? But as you get older, you define your own value. You don't need phone calls to feel cared for or compliments to feel worthwhile. You've earned the right to be yourself, completely and utterly. You've reached a place of self-acceptance and inner peace, and that's truly priceless. Reason number 2, peace and quiet are priceless. Socializing used to be a must. When we're younger, connecting with friends, colleagues, family, it's a huge part of life. It makes you feel like you belong, that you're seen and cared for. But as you get older, you realize a lot of that chatter just isn't necessary anymore. Silence becomes a gift. That inner peace, not being bombarded by unwanted calls, not getting dragged into pointless conversations, that's something you crave more and more as you age. This is meaningful silence. Silence to recharge, silence to connect with yourself, silence to avoid negativity, gossip, complaining, drama. It's not loneliness, it's serenity. Even good relationships drain your energy. Even with close friends, there's always the expectation to reply to messages, attend gatherings, show up for events. For many, this becomes more of a chore than a joy. You start wondering, am I keeping this up because it's fun or because I'm afraid of judgment? Margaret's story, a real-life example. She used to have tons of friends, attending every social event imaginable. But over time, she found the conversations increasingly boring, negative, or repetitive. She quietly withdrew, dedicating time to herself, walks, reading, being in nature. And the surprise? She didn't feel lonely, she felt more peaceful than ever. A crucial shift in perspective. Instead of thinking fewer friends equals lonely, think, less socializing isn't deprivation, it's a choice. You don't need to talk to someone every day to feel like you exist. You don't need to accept every invitation just to feel alive. It's about choosing quality over quantity and finding peace in your own company. It's about realizing that true connection isn't measured by the number of people you know, but by the depth of the relationships you cherish. Reason number 3, fewer friends equals less heartbreak. Let's face it, not everyone's a true friend. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of social connections when you're young, mistaking acquaintances for genuine friendships. While you've got something to offer, status, perks, connections, people will flock to you. But the moment that changes, so do those relationships. A lot of people are only around for convenience, not because they genuinely care. Friendship often comes with expectations, and expectations lead to disappointment. You call, but they don't return your call. You're always the first to reach out. You offer help and support, but when you need it, they're silent. That disappointment stems from expecting others to care about you as much as you care about them. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a reality check many of us need. Interestingly, having fewer relationships can actually lead to better emotional control. Fewer people around means fewer expectations and less disappointment. Instead of waiting for someone to check in, you learn to nurture your own emotional well-being. You're no longer at the mercy of feeling forgotten or undervalued. It's about self-reliance and emotional independence. Take William, for example. This 78-year-old spent his life maintaining a wide network of friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. He realized, however, that he was always the one initiating contact, making the calls, asking the questions, doing the inviting. When he stopped being so proactive, those relationships faded. He learned a valuable lesson. They didn't change. He simply stopped tolerating the one-sided dynamic. Ultimately, it's about quality over quantity. A true friendship doesn't require constant effort, pretense, or exhausting maintenance. One person who truly understands you is worth 10 superficial acquaintances. And if you don't have that one person, that's okay too. You're your own best friend, and that's a pretty amazing thing. Learn to cherish that inner strength and self-sufficiency. It's a powerful foundation for a fulfilling life. Reason number 4. Time is more precious than ever. When you're young, time feels endless. In our younger years, we tend to be pretty casual with our time. Hours are spent on unnecessary appointments, maintaining social connections out of politeness, and attending events more out of obligation than genuine desire. But then, one day it hits you. Time isn't as limitless as it once seemed. Then comes a shift in perspective as we age. We start questioning every invitation. Do I really want to go? Will this interaction leave me feeling energized and positive? Will I be able to be myself and truly enjoy this? If the answer is no, you have the right to say no, guilt-free. Take Mr. Richard, for example. He's over 80, and he used to have a super active social life. Parties, phone calls, the whole shebang. But gradually, these gatherings started feeling draining. It was all repetitive conversations, complaints, negativity, and a whole lot of pretense. The joy was gone. One day, he decided to stop automatically saying yes and started saying no to protect his peace of mind. Instead of spending his time maintaining social connections that weren't fulfilling, Mr. Richard started doing things he loved. Reading his favorite books, taking peaceful walks in nature, learning new things, writing, and simply enjoying quiet moments of reflection. The result? He's not lonely at all. He feels more alive and present than ever. The big question for all of us is this relationship worth my precious time? If the answer is no, you have the power to choose differently, because at a certain point, you don't owe anyone your time anymore. It's yours to spend wisely on things that truly nourish your soul. Reason number 5, true friendship starts within society, teaches us to constantly seek external connection. From a young age, we're encouraged to be sociable, make lots of friends, and believe that communication is the key to happiness. This can lead to a fear of loneliness, pushing us to always have someone around, even if they're not the right people. But as we get older, we realize that being around others doesn't always alleviate loneliness. Sometimes it's even more exhausting. There's a crucial difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Being alone is a physical state. You're simply without company. Loneliness, however, is an internal feeling, a lack of connection, even when surrounded by people. The happiest people aren't necessarily the ones with the most friends. They're the ones who can be content in their own company. Take Eleanor, for example. At 76, she used to be incredibly active socially, constantly connecting with friends through calls and meetups. But over time, she realized something. The more she socialized, the more drained she felt. Many of her relationships had become habitual, lacking genuine connection. She was losing herself trying to maintain a certain image for others. Eleanor decided to make a change. Instead of seeking external validation, she turned inward. She started taking solo walks, enjoying quiet time at a cafe with a good book, listening to music, meditating, and journaling. She learned to listen to her own emotions without needing anyone else around. And to her surprise, she discovered she wasn't lonely at all. In fact, she was happier than ever before. The benefits of becoming your own best friend are numerous. You gain freedom from emotional dependence on others. You find a peaceful calmness, free from worrying about whether people remember or care about you. You even become more attractive to others, radiating a confident self-sufficiency that naturally draws the right people into your life. The truth is, you don't need to fill a void because there's no void left to fill. You've become complete within yourself. Reason number 6, letting go opens the door to a more meaningful life. Many people cling to relationships out of sheer habit. They keep in touch, attend parties, answer calls that aren't particularly enjoyable, not because they're close, but because that's how it's always been. Fear of judgment, misunderstanding, or appearing distant keeps them going, even when they're secretly exhausted. But ask yourself, why do something just to please others when it no longer brings you joy? Letting go isn't about abandoning people. It's about choosing yourself. When you stop investing time and energy in strained relationships, you create space for yourself, you gain time for things you truly love, and you find a lightness in your heart. Letting go doesn't mean loss. It helps you rediscover who you are. Take James, for example. He's almost 80. He used to believe staying busy with friends was the key to staying young and happy. But the more he clung to old relationships, the more he noticed the conversations becoming shallow, the gatherings feeling obligatory, the calls filled with repetitive stories. One day, he stopped and chose to live for himself. After letting go, he discovered something amazing. He dedicated time to nature, exercise, learning, gardening, slowing down, and surprisingly, he found true happiness. He was no longer bound by shoulds and musts. He wasn't living someone else's life anymore. Letting go of old relationships opened him up to himself. Understanding letting go correctly. It doesn't mean isolating yourself. It's about cleansing your life and mind, keeping only what's truly valuable. You choose a simpler, deeper life. You choose peace over social obligations. You choose relationships that allow you to be yourself without pretending. Eleanor, at 76, popped up in Reasons 1 and 5. Before, she was always busy connecting. Phone calls, scheduling meetings, never letting a day go by in silence. She was constantly socializing, terrified of being forgotten. But the truth, despite her regular social whirl, she felt exhausted, empty. Her relationships were fueled by history and habit. They weren't bringing her any positive energy anymore. Then came the shift. Eleanor decided to stop chasing appointments. She started enjoying the quiet moments, having conversations with herself. Solo coffee dates, reading, meditation, walks, and she discovered something amazing. That feeling of fullness comes from within. It doesn't need anyone else to fill it. It wasn't about filling a void, but about recognizing the richness already present. The takeaway? When you stop frantically searching for others to fill the gaps, you realize you weren't missing anything at all. You were already complete, just waiting to discover it. It's a beautiful lesson, and one that's surprisingly easy to overlook in our always-on, hyper-connected world. Eleanor's story is a reminder to slow down, listen to ourselves, and appreciate the quiet moments that often hold the greatest treasures. Harold, a man in his 70s, found himself at a crossroads. Before retirement, he was a successful professional, surrounded by a seemingly endless network of friends and colleagues. A vibrant part of his life, or so it seemed. But after hanging up his hat, those relationships evaporated faster than morning dew. The harsh reality hit him. Most of those connections were purely professional, built on shared work experiences, not genuine friendship. It was a sobering realization. He stopped forcing himself to maintain those superficial relationships, the ones he kept out of obligation or politeness. Instead, he focused on himself, rediscovering his hobbies, passions, and his own personal rhythm. He started living life on his own terms, at his own pace, and for the first time in years, he felt a profound sense of relief, a true freedom he hadn't known was possible. It taught him a valuable lesson. Sometimes, retirement isn't just about leaving your job, it's about letting go of exhausting relationships that no longer serve you. It's about prioritizing your own well-being and finding joy in the simple things, in the quiet moments of self-discovery. It's about realizing that true connection isn't about quantity, but quality. Harold's journey reminds us that sometimes the most liberating thing you can do is to simplify your life and focus on what truly matters. Margaret, at 74, used to have a whirlwind social life. Her calendar was packed, phone calls, lunches, parties, trips, the works. She felt this constant pressure to be present to maintain all those friendships. It was exhausting, but she believed it was essential for a fulfilling life. But then things shifted. Conversations became repetitive, shallow, even draining. Phone calls turned into complaints and gossip sessions. Instead of feeling happy and connected, Margaret found herself feeling utterly depleted. The constant demands on her time and energy left her feeling more stressed than satisfied. The turning point came when she started gently declining invitations that didn't excite her. She began prioritizing her own well-being, rediscovering the simple joys of reading a good book, taking peaceful walks, and quietly tending to her little chores around the house. In this quiet solitude, she found something truly precious: peace. A peace that far surpassed the fleeting satisfaction of social gatherings. It wasn't about withdrawing from life, she realized, but about stepping more deeply into herself, into a richer, more fulfilling inner life. She learned that true happiness wasn't about the quantity of friendships, but the quality of the connection with herself. It was about choosing moments of quiet reflection over the noise of endless social obligations. And in that choice, she found a profound sense of contentment. William, at 78, shows up in Reason 3. He used to have tons of friends, always the one reaching out, initiating calls and get-togethers. But then he realized something. Every single connection felt forced, like he was dragging everyone along. He was doing all the work, putting in all the effort. So he stopped. He just stopped trying so hard. And guess what? Silence. A surprising, almost shocking silence. It wasn't that his friends suddenly vanished. It's that the constant, one-sided effort he was putting in was the only thing keeping those relationships afloat. The takeaway? William didn't change. He just stopped tolerating one-sided friendships. He learned that genuine connection requires reciprocity, and he's okay with letting go of relationships that don't offer that. He's found peace in prioritizing his own energy and focusing on connections that are truly fulfilling, rather than exhausting. Richard, well over 80, used to be a whirlwind of activity, a social butterfly who loved a good chat. But as the years piled up, those polite conversations started to feel exhausting. One particularly draining lunch, filled with complaints and polite pleasantries, was his wake-up call. "This," he declared, "isn't how I want to spend my time anymore." He traded the hustle and bustle for a simpler, quieter life. And, wouldn't you know it, he's happier than he's ever been. He's found joy in the little things, the quiet moments, the peace and tranquility that comes with letting go of the pressure to constantly be on. He still enjoys connecting with people, but now it's on his terms, at his pace, and only with those who truly bring him joy. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes less is truly more. James, nearing 80, had always believed that more friends meant less loneliness. That's what reason number 6 on his list said anyway. He'd spent years cultivating a large social circle, convinced that a busy calendar was the key to happiness. But then something shifted. Those get-togethers, once eagerly anticipated, became rote, almost obligatory. The laughter felt forced, the conversations shallow. He realized the people around him, while pleasant enough, weren't truly enriching his life. They weren't offering the kind of deep connection he craved. So he made a choice. He started gently letting go of some friendships, prioritizing quality over quantity. It wasn't easy, but the result was surprising. He discovered a lightness he hadn't felt in years, a quiet joy in his own company, and a profound sense of peace he never expected. It turns out, sometimes the best way to combat loneliness isn't to fill your life with people, but to cultivate a deeper connection with yourself. Turns out, happiness after 70 isn't about how many friends you have, but the peace of not trying to keep anyone around. You don't need to answer every call, force a smile in inauthentic meetings, or cling to things that drain you. True friendship can come from learning to love yourself. When you're truly at peace within, the right relationships will find you. No forcing, no pretending. If this resonated with you, leave a comment or share your story. Your words might help someone lost in superficial relationships. Thanks for sticking around. And remember, old age isn't the end, it's the beginning of truly living as yourself.